and thank you, federal partners, for having us and for being engaged. I apologize if you've been on any of the other webinars that we've been on recently with the Chico Council or the Chief Learning Officers Council or the Senior Executives Association. But this is really, really important to spread the word as far and wide and deep as possible to get as much support as possible from across the federal sector. And so originally we were only going to talk about leadership for an efficient and accountable government, which is OPM's new aspiring senior executive service program, but thought we would broaden the aperture a bit and talk about the entire portfolio of the new executive development programs. And by entire portfolio, I mean the two programs. So the first is the Senior Executive Development Program led by Nick and targeted toward our senior executive service. And I'm leading the Leadership for an Efficient and Accountable Government, again, LEAG. With that, I will turn it over to Nick for the overview.
Thanks, Jerome, and thanks everyone for joining today. I am Nick Crane, Program Manager for the Senior Executive Development Program, and we're both very excited to be here today. Very excited to just have all of these opportunities to share a bit about our program, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to touch on a few different programmatic components today, and we definitely plan to have time at the end for a few questions. Now, in terms of our purpose today, it's really just to ensure you all leave here with a high-level understanding of the two executive development programs. And with that understanding, we hope that you'll be able to answer any high-level questions you receive from others in your organization. But if you still have questions or you receive questions that you're unsure of, we really just want you to know that you have Jerome and I as contacts to help get the answers that you need. We're looking forward to partnering with you to spread the word about the programs, and we want to ensure that we get the participation in them and the feedback on them that will just help them to continue to grow and improve. So again, as Jerome mentioned, we use Executive Development Program as our umbrella term that both of our unique programs fit underneath. And as we note here, there is statutory underpinning for offering both of these programs. Mine, the SEDP program, the Senior Executive Development Program, that content is targeted to existing senior executives. It's designed for the continuing development of current senior execs. It's not an SES CDP program. And again, there is that statutory piece to what we're trying to do with SEDP. But even if there wasn't a statutory component, it's really the right thing to do, especially now. As you all know, there have been a lot of executive orders that have come out. There's a renewed emphasis on foundational ideas and documents like federalism and the Constitution. There's a desire to give senior executives development opportunities in a flexible and asynchronous format. We want senior executives to hear from and learn from other senior executives and from current and past appointees or academics. So there is value built into not just the content, but the format of what we're doing. And with LEAG, yes, there's also that statutory component. There is that real need for a succession pipeline. The 10% attrition that we're kind of referencing here means you've got these 500 to 700 SES vacancies per year. And to maintain that robust SES population, you need to have a developmental path and developmental opportunities for the high potential 14s and 15s to help equip them with the skills they're going to need if they're able to move up into that very small, 7,000 SES executive level. And so in terms of outcomes, again, thinking about both programs under the umbrella of executive development, adding to what I already mentioned about that constitutional grounding, content for both of these programs is also going to be reflective of the revised ECQs. You're going to see SEDP video content organized into themes. Yes, connected to strategic leadership and decision making, but human capital management, accountability, performance management, a whole bunch of different content. LEAG classroom content is also going to be aligned in a similar way. So again, that's just speaking to both programs from a value, from a statutory component, and what we really hope to accomplish with them combined. Getting into this more specifics of the Senior Executive Development Program, I'm not going to click this video because it's a little choppy and the audio is a little wonky when we try to share it. But when you get the slides, you'll be able to click here on this image and it will take you to our quick little teaser video. You'll get a sense of some of the look, the speakers, the feel of it. You can do a quick search on YouTube if you can't wait to get the slides. But I'm giving you this overview in addition to what we share in the video content. You're going to see over the next few months, as we roll out content, you're going to see more little snippets like this, again, on LinkedIn or X. Find us on the socials, follow us there, and you're going to see more snippets as we kind of roll things out in the coming quarter one. So, and again, getting into a little bit more detail around the SEDP and the methods we're using to communicate the information. It is an initial 40 hours of on-demand training content, right? The videos are going to be housed on our LMS, and it's going to be accessible only to the paid registrants. Those participants we hope will kind of benefit from the asynchronous format. We really just want to help senior executives fit training and development content into their very busy schedules. We don't want them binging it all in one week, and the first registrants aren't going to be able to. Like your favorite streaming series, we're going to release the content over a period of time, and we're going to be alerting those early participants when new videos are posted. And as I mentioned, there'll be a little bit of marketing and social media activity as we get the content uploaded. Um, So on the content slide, did mention constitutional grounding, talked about it being reflective of the revised ECQs and how we're going to organize content under themes, themes important to the SES, responsibilities to the Constitution, again, strategic human capital, performance management. You're going to see content connected to all of that in a series of videos. And that's kind of the high level overview, right? Video training series, not too complex. Happy to answer questions about it as we get towards the end. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jerome, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the LEAG program.
Yeah, so just to make sure that that we've got this all squared away in our minds, the executive development programs that's the umbrella term for both of these learning programs from OPM. The senior executive development program is a series of videos that's targeted to the senior executive service. Leadership for an Efficient and Accountable Government, the second program, is the Aspiring SES Development Program. And we can go to the next slide, Nick. And so we call this program LEAG, and it's a 14-week intensive hybrid program for high performing and high potential GS 14s and 15s that are aspiring to the SES. And so this has been meticulously crafted, by federal employees like Nick and I, and for federal employees like you and your organizations and your high performing 14s and 15s for maximum impact. And so the orientation and the capstone, which are weeks 1 and week 4, are in person in Washington, D.C. In the orientation, the curriculum capitalizes on the OPM 360 and the OPM personality assessment for leaders. So there are 2 assessments up front which introduce participants to their coaching. Coaching is introduced in week number 1, and that coaching relationship lasts throughout the duration of the 14-week curriculum, which capitalizes on the orientation again here, capitalizes on the rich history, the architecture, and the artifacts of Washington, D.C. that leads into the first couple of models of Constitution and the American founding, for example. The capstone, which is week 14, actually simulates a realistic SES level challenge. And so it requires participants to demonstrate vision and alignment and execution which mirrors the actual demands of the senior executive service in a high impact environment. And by high impact environment, I mean that participants are going to be required in that capstone to lead a crisis response, to ensure ethical and legal compliance during that response, to communicate with internal and external stakeholders, to realign the strategy under the resource constraints, and to recommend cultural and operational reforms that are in that present themselves in that capstone that is the culmination of the 13 weeks that precede that 14th week capstone. Next slide, please. So weeks 2 through 13 then prepare the participants for that capstone event and leverage a blend of readings, of reflections, of case study analysis for practical application. Again, this is designed for maximum practical impact. And each week also includes content from the Senior Executive Development Program video series that Nick also just explained. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. And some of the topics in weeks 2 through 13 include things like Constitution and the Founding, the Trump administration executive orders, federal leadership foundations, more applicable things like more practically applicable things like budgeting and fiscal responsibility, leading high performance teams, and federal HR laws and policies. And so there is a range of both very technical, federal specific content, as well as more general leadership traits and characteristics content as well. Next slide. So a couple of weeks ago, we opened up registration for both LEAG and SEDP. And so both programs and registrations are open and will remain open perpetually. The SEDP videos will become available in mid-October, and the pilot cohort for LEAG will begin the week of October 15th. And so the October 14th LEAG cohort is the pilot 10-week program. And so because that particular cohort is 10 weeks, you're not missing out on content. What we did was rearrange the content to be applicable over the course of 10 versus 14 weeks. And so one example of that is that there is, in the 14-week program, there is an entire week sort of dedicated predominantly to understanding the executive orders, right? But in the 10-week program, we've distributed those executive orders to the week in which they're applicable. So those that are applicable to performance management are covered in performance management. Those in HR laws are covered in merit system principles, for example. And so they're divided. And we've done that with a couple of different things like executive communication and stakeholder engagement. So you don't miss out on content, but it is a bit more intense condensed into that 10-week format and model. And so, but the primary intent of that 10-week model is to be able to garner as much feedback as possible to pour back into the program to make continuous and iterative adjustments and improvements. And the first full 14-week cohort then starts in January. Next slide. So the support that we need from you, and I particularly am interested in this cohort or in this audience, of course, because of your subject matter expertise and your insight. But we do need agencies and senior executives endorsements. So we need your help with getting your agency's endorsements, with getting your organization's leaders' endorsements, and any opportunity that you might see where we can speak to your agencies on behalf of these programs would be welcomed as well. So we need help in marketing these efforts broadly. Again, happy to do something similar to this, or to kind of target this to your agency's needs. But also to understand from a financial perspective that, and this has come up several times, that agency budgets in 25 at the end of this fiscal year are critical to supporting registration for early 26. And offline, we can kind of we can get into the details of bona fide need and scheduling necessity and reasonable timing of this. But just know that we're encouraging organizations at the end of this fiscal year to be able to invest still in their high performing and high potential 14s and 15s, to be able to be early to the registration, especially in early FY26. And then we just need your help with prioritizing, evaluating and nominating your high performing leaders in your organization from your seat in the agency. Next. On the horizon, you will continue to see some additional in-person executive development opportunities, some more SEDP videos that will be released subsequent to October. And then you can scan that QR code that's on your screen right now to sign up for real-time updates that are delivered through Gov Delivery. So you're welcome to sign up for Gov Delivery. You will get more information on the executive development programs broadly, and specifically the SEDP and LEAG programs. Next. And then finally, for more information, this QR code will lead you to the overview on the OPM website of both programs. It will also allow you to click on the registration button. You can see the cohort dates and costs for each one of these programs, and then you can click on register and register your senior executive service members or your 14s and 15s for their respective programs here. So yes, looking at some of the chats that are coming through, absolutely, equivalents are also welcome. And please forgive me, I do refer to the 14s and 15s and SESs when what we mean are 14 and 15 equivalents, SLST, senior executive service members, and all of the above, essentially, in each one of these categories. Yeah, Joy, I appreciate the question about the end of fiscal year. For those organizations, ultimately, right, it's up to the agency and the organization. What I would say is that these programs have broad support and endorsement from agency leaders. Your agency leaders may receive more information about support for these leader development programs across the federal government. I would anticipate them seeing something like that in the near future. I would anticipate that translating into pretty broad authority to adjudicate within your agencies who those 14s and 15s and SLs and STs and SESs are who need to register for and partake in these programs.
Yeah, and we've had another question come in around the programs being mandatory or not. And these are not mandatory programs. It's just an offering that we've developed to help meet your developmental needs of your existing SES and your aspiring SES. Again, statute says that folks need to be developing themselves towards these things, whether they are current or aspiring, and we are just offering one option to be able to do so. So not mandatory, but definitely encouraged. And as Jerome mentioned, there's been a lot of support from and assistance with participant or speakers, presenters across government. I mean, while we're here talking about this, and OPM is is housed under Human Resources Solutions within OPM, you're going to see on the video series, or maybe as a coach as part of the LEAG program, people from your agency, other agencies. It's a real by government for government effort that's being supported by a whole bunch of government.
Yep, Gary, the SEDP video series is entirely online. The LEAG curriculum is hybrid. So week 1 and week 14 are in person in DC. Weeks 2 through 13 are virtual, both synchronous and asynchronous. And by that, I mean asynchronously covering the homework for each week, or the pre-work, coaching, for example, any readings, any self-reflection. And then every week there is a synchronous meeting of the cohort for facilitated discussion.
And there was another CDP kind of question that popped up. OPM, the policy component of OPM, will be putting out new CDP information. Where Jerome and I aren't really connected to that, can't speak to those specifics right now, but we do know that that kind of information is coming out, and so you'll hear more on that soon. And then Gary had a follow-up question. OPM is not providing travel funds. If you are outside of NCR, that would just be up to your agency as part of the investment in the participant, to not only the tuition piece, but if any travel is required, that would be on the agency. And I'll just kind of put this out there because we've had this question in the past. We've actually had some registrations come in connected to, well, I'm a GS15 interested in the video series. Maybe from a budget perspective, it can only support that. Or I'm an SES that is actually, I'm a new SES that really likes in-person programming and wants to help build my network locally, so that there's components of the LEAG that are really interesting to me. And we have that flexibility. I mean, we're going to talk about this program as Jerome and I did today. We're going to market this program aligned with those target audiences, but we have some flexibility on the back end. If there is a 14 or 15 aspiring, high-performing 14 or 15 that wants to access the full suite of SEDP videos, we can. And we've had this, if there's an SES that also wants to partake in the LEAG program, combined, that it would be a $10,000 cost for both. The LEAG is $8,500, SEDP is $1,500. That's kind of a purchase card maximum. And we've had people sign up for both programs. There's those options too. We're not out, advertising that fact per se, again, in the marketing or whatnot, trying to keep it very simple and speak to those target audiences. But if you're getting questions from your folks, know that we do have a little bit of flexibility, and we're happy to, answer those questions. And I'll put my contact information in here as well. We can work through that, but we've got flexibility. We're here to serve, the needs of you all, and do it in as flexible a way as we can.
So between the chat and verbally, what questions have we missed? Joy, did we miss anything?
I think you covered most of them. I'm scanning through right now. You covered the cohorts. Equivalents. Did we cover the Christendom's, the equivalents? Okay.
Yes.
I think you covered all of them. And if someone would like to unmute and ask a question that hasn't been asked yet, or if we did miss yours, please do feel free to speak up. And Gary just came back with, when does it kick off? You have the October pilot and then the January course.
Yep, for LEAG pilot, 10-week pilot goes from the week of October 14th through the week of December 19th. And then the full 14-week cohort begins January 5th, I think. Yeah, that's a good question, Jennifer. Thinking about Title 10, and this is off the cuff, but I don't see why not. I don't see why, as federal agents, I don't see why military would not be eligible for this learning and development opportunity alongside their counterparts, right? So in a number of military departments, there are civilian learning and development opportunities that are also open to military members, and I don't see why this would not be the same model.
So, Jerome, I do have an additional question. Looking at the LEAG coming out and your new programs coming out, OPM updated and changed the ECQs. However, OPM's website still has not published the ECQs. So when you go to OPM and look up ECQs, it still has the original ECQs. Do we know at what point they will update? Because I know the new ECQs are supposed to take effect at the end of either this month or next month. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure, like the archiving of websites and how all of that stuff works. And when you Google OPM ECQs, what pops up and when. So in the performance management executive order, of course, the new ECQs and sub-competencies are all laid out there. I'm not positive when and if and how the inner workings of the website work, but I would assume that they would be updated, pretty quickly there. But also, you can also reference the executive order as well, which has the details of not just these two programs, but also the new ECQs, the sub-competencies, and the content areas for the curricula. Yep, dates are listed on the registration sites, so you can, without registering, you can go right to the websites and take a look at all of the available dates. And then Nick threw in the chat the link to the talent development for senior executive service, where that's all listed.
Perfect, thank you. Does anyone have any additional questions for Jerome or Nick regarding the LEAG?
It looks like there was a question about the CPEs.
Have CPEs been established?
Go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was going to say, from our side on the SEDP, and I think I'm speaking the same for Jerome there in LEAG, we haven't submitted these to any kind of accrediting body around that. And I think as a general rule, whatever sort of professional organization that you need your CEUs or CPEs for, I think they would be the ones determining if our courses would be eligible for those. And you might get different answers across different certifying bodies. But I think, we would be, I don't know that we've received any requests yet, even from any organizations about access to the curriculum. But when this all launches, I think that will be easier to do. I can't speak to any specific organizations again, but we'd be happy to partner with any of them to get them the information they need such that they can make the decision that they need to make around that.
Yep.
All right, we still have plenty of time with Jerome and Nick for anyone that has any questions This is your one shot unless you email Jerome directly, which I believe he put his email address and contact information further up in the chat. I think I saw you do that earlier.
Yep, I'll put it in again.
That's pretty quiet. I guess everyone hasn't had enough coffee yet today. But I think I've asked all my questions, and I saw a couple people ask a number of questions, and I think, oh, Jen Statt's got one more question. Awesome. Jen, please go ahead. She's probably typing it up. Jen, if you want to unmute, if you have a mic available. Okay. Great question.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jen, and something for us to keep in mind for the future and for future consideration. So right now we have not been, I'm assuming that you mean, sort of, lower level than the 14, or lower grades than the 14 and 15 levels. We have not developed anything out for that level of leadership, but it certainly is something to consider, right? So, like Nick mentioned about the SEDP program, if you're trying to build a cohort of competent, experienced executives, you don't start when they become executives, right? You start before that. You start at the 14 and 15 level, and then if you're trying to build a continuum of capable leaders in government, you don't start at the 14 and 15 level. You have to reach employees. You have to reach leaders before that. And so you're absolutely right, and we would love to take that on in the future with the appropriate amount of capability. We're a pretty small team right now. As this grows, perhaps, and as we get more capability to build and scale, then that is something that I would certainly like to be able to pursue in the future.
And Jerome, I think you have you're in the right audience right now, because TOC is a small organization made up solely of volunteers. And you saw what we accomplished. So I think with this as an audience, where we're looking at federal L&D professionals and our partners in academia and industry, we do have some means to garner that support, and addressing us and being able to pull that knowledge base to provide those brainstorming sessions and create a committee to start building that. Because as Jen alluded to, the CLD, and we all know the CLD closed quite suddenly, actually, from what I recall, to the point that no one within the OPM realized it until it happened. But like you said, we can't start with the 14s. We need to be able to start with our 9s and our 7s and start going them up. And how do they do that other than each agency doing it on their own, rather than coming together and supporting OPM and building theirs for the rest of the agencies? Do you foresee anytime soon where CLD might come back, or some instance or iteration of it?
I think we would all, be needing to get out our crystal balls, and mine's a little tarnished currently. I don't know how well it's working, but I would say, what Jerome and I talked about today was really grounded in that statutory requirement. And I think that's where we're all starting is, what does the statute require? We're creating offerings aligned with what statute says should be out there. And I know we're going to get a lot of lessons learned from these programs. This is where we start, where it goes from those lessons learned, and what we can continue to build or not, I think is going to be a question for after we get this launched and start to get it rolling a little bit. But that statute's driving the organizational thinking now, and we'll kind of see what that expands to or not as we go forward.
Thank you.
So two things. I appreciate this this audience's. I appreciate TOC's participation in this process. It's not lost on me the learning and development professionals that you are. And so if we could, to Gary's point, if we could continue to come back and update you on how the process is going, the outcomes of the pilot, we would love to do that on a relatively regular basis. If there are members of this community that would like to sign up to be a part of any one of these programs, that would be extraordinary as well, and we could certainly use your insight. So assessments for the participants, the two assessments are the OPM 360, so a 360 assessment, and the OPM personality assessment for leaders, so the OPM PAL, P-A-L. And those are the two assessments, the results of which will be used by the participants and their coaches for the coaching relationship for the duration of the program. Now, if you meant, if you were getting at assessments like program evaluation, then so we are currently working on the deep plan of what that looks like. We know a few things. We know what we want to get out of assessing the program. We know that we want to measure the learning and growth, and so we know that there are ways to do that. We know that we want to get actionable feedback on our content, on our delivery, on our curricula, on the logistics, both in person and virtually. And we know that we want to identify both the strengths and the improvement areas for the curriculum design itself. We are working with we're working with some other stakeholders. We have meetings, we're working internally in OPM with the Center for Assessments and Evaluations, externally with people like Jim Kirkpatrick, so on and so forth, to help to design a meaningful program evaluation. And so right now we've kind of got the structure or the skeleton for that, and we'll continue to build that out, not just over the next several months, from now through October, but also through October, and then iteratively, depending on how useful our participants think the outcome of those assessments are going forward.
I'm seeing nothing new come into chat. And Jerome, this was a wealth of information. Thank you so much for coming on board and showcasing the LEAG and what you guys are doing over there in OPM over the past summer to get these items off the ground and launched. If anyone else has any additional questions, speak now, as you have an open audience in front of you.
You're also welcome to email either one of us anytime. We're happy to respond to those. Also happy to talk with your leadership, with your agency, either in a small or larger forum like this.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. If no one has anything else, the slides and this video will be, the slides will be provided to you via email, and this video will be posted on the TOC website underneath our webinars pages.
Thanks, everyone.
And
thank you all.